Howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. Almost as soon as somebody hears my accent talking about my views, somebody, normally from the North, will be like, what do you think of the Confederate flag? It's kind of like some kind of test, I guess, because, there's that stereotype. Okay. Well, I can understand wanting to display a tie to the South. I do. It's wonderful down here. It is wonderful down here. It's a great place. It's great culture. But the thing I don't understand is that Southern culture existed long before the Confederacy and long afterward. I have no idea why people want to use that symbol as an icon to represent the South. It's drawing up images of the most immoral, evil, and worst times in Southern history. I don't understand how that's become a symbol. I don't understand how people can think, I want people to associate me with this. With all of this evil, with all of this stuff that happened, I want people to associate me with that when there's so many other options. To put it in a different perspective, it would be like saying, I want to display my American heritage. So you walk around with smallpox infected blankets handing them out to people. It doesn't make sense. The Confederacy, it was a failed nation that didn't last a generation over 100 years ago. Nobody has a connection to that anymore. Not really. And let's say you do. Let's say, for whatever reason, you actually have some connection to the Confederacy. Why don't you actually fly the Confederate flag? And right now there's a bunch of people going, what? Yeah, that red flag with the blue cross and the stars on it, that's not the Confederate flag. That's the flag of the Army of Northern Virginia. It's a battle flag. It's Robert E. Lee's flag, basically. It had nothing to do with the Confederacy. The original Confederate flag had a red stripe, a white stripe, a red stripe, a blue field with stars in it. It looked a lot like the American flag. It had 3 stripes, though. Why not fly that? If you actually want heritage and some connection to the Confederacy, why not fly that symbol? Nobody's going to look at that and be like, oh, that guy's a racist. Doesn't have that connotation. People don't look at that. Most of them don't even know what it is. And if you're actually concerned about heritage, that'd be kind of a cool test, wouldn't it? I mean, there's a lot of people with rebel flags, what they think is the flag of the Confederacy, who didn't know that it wasn't until this video. Wouldn't it be cool to kind of weed them out? Unless that's not really the heritage you're talking about. And that's actually what I think it is for a lot of people flying that flag. See, it has another heritage. It has another more recent use. It was added to Georgia's state flag 2 years after Brown versus Board of Education. It was real clear what it meant. You uppity folk better stay in your place. That's what it meant. The reason it is seen as a racist symbol is because its most recent usage was by people who engaged in lynchings and assassinations and church bombings and arsons. Of course it's seen as a racist symbol. It is. It's that simple. I think that's probably the heritage that most people who fly it are really reaching back to. The 1960s. Opposition to desegregation. Because otherwise, if it really had to do with the Confederacy, why aren't you flying the Confederate flag, the real one? You got a bunch of guys from Alabama and Mississippi flying a flag from Virginia. No, I'm not buying it. I don't think it's about heritage. Not for a second. I had a guy, and there's no nice way to say this. He was a gangbanger. He was. We met through a very bizarre twist of fate. Nice guy. I mean, in my in my experience with him, he was a nice guy, but he was a gangbanger. He told me that he he gave, I wish I could remember the exact words, something like, I give white boys a pass if they're under 24 flying that. I thought that was interesting. I asked him why. And he said that it was a lot like black kids from the suburbs sporting gang colors. You know, they're looking for an identity. They're looking for something to belong to. And this is how they think they can do it. But if, you know, and that's okay as a kid, but if they're older and they haven't grown out of that, they're probably dangerous. Yeah. Yeah. that's pretty good. And that's been my experience. That has been my experience with it. It is. The thing is, that symbol doesn't represent the South. It represents racism. It never represented the South, ever. It wasn't the Southern flag. It wasn't the Confederate flag. Yeah, I know. And there's somebody that's going to say, well, you know, later on, the Confederacy had a second flag and a third flag, and you know, and it was in some of those. Yeah, it was a small part. A small part. At no point in time was a red flag with a blue cross with those stars on it, making up the entire flag, was that anything other than a battle flag for Robert E. Lee's army, and I think there was an outfit out of Tennessee that used something similar. It doesn't represent the South. It never did. So it's not your heritage. At least not the one you're pretending it is. And here's the thing about it, because we have a new South, gentlemen. You know, I live out in the country. My nearest neighbors are black. And I'll tell you this, they represent the South, Southern culture, Southern hospitality, more than anyone I have ever met that was waving one of those flags. And I know there's a lot of people that think that there's going to be some resurgence and the South will rise again. You know, in the 1920s, that flag didn't have a racist connotation back then. It was the symbol of lost causes. I think that's probably more fitting. You know, you guys tried recently. I know, racists from all over the country went to Georgia to try to defend some Confederate monument, and you got chased out by the people in Georgia. In Georgia. They didn't want your racist rears. As far as that ever symbolizing the South again, it won't. We don't want you anymore. It's a new South. Don't go away mad. Just go away. Anyway, y'all have a nice night.